So, like looking at your social media and everything you got going on, you have like some pretty crazy titles like the OG digital nomad and the professional hobo. Like, how did we get there? How did we get here?
How did we get there? The origin story, such as it is, was the year was 2006, I guess. And I'd realized I'd hit a crossroads in my life. I was running a financial planning practice in Toronto, Canada. I had achieved a certain modicum of success in so doing. But I also had this lifelong dream of traveling the world long term in a culturally immersive way. And it really was a lifelong dream because it was born from a moment in childhood where I just became really, really interested in knowing how other children play around the world. I just like wanted to know what games they played. And as I grew up, that dream grew up with me, and I wanted to know how the adults played. And, where do you shop? How do you work? What do you eat? What do you talk about around the dinner table? How do people live around the world? I had, of course, not been able to satisfy this dream or scratch this itch with vacations because they were perpetually too short. So I knew that in order to really get under the surface of any country or culture, I had to really go all in. I had to have the luxury of time and as much time as I wanted to travel and to do this. And so I realized I was turning 30 at the time, and I was like, okay, well, I could put another 30 years into the traditional workforce and wait for retirement. Of course, knowing that the risk could be I might not be willing or able to travel the way I wanted to in retirement, or I could do it now. Now was in the prehistoric days of remote work, full-time travel, digital nomadism. Like, it wasn't a thing. People didn't do it. There were no websites, forums, ebooks, online courses, ways for me to connect with other people doing this lifestyle. So although I'm sure I wasn't the only person in the world to be doing it, it sure felt that way most of the time. But that was okay because I was just driven. I was driven by this North Star of living around the world and just experiencing it as best I could. And as I, it wasn't until probably 6 months into my travels that I realized, hey, wait a minute, with a laptop and an internet connection, ding, I could make a living as a freelance writer. So that was
Mm.
my initial remote career, was developing a portfolio and a repertoire as a freelance writer. In the meantime, I did have this thing called a travel blog. But in 2006 and 7 and 8, and all travel blogs were really just glorified online journals. And that was mine as well. It was just a passion project. It was a hobby. It was a way for me to chronicle my travels, and my mom basically, or friends, to check in and see how I was doing, and they could see what I had written. But of course, as the years went by, as we all know, with the dose of hindsight, travel blogging actually became a thing, and it even turned into an industry. So as that happened, I became recognized as one of the OG travel bloggers. And then as digital nomadism became popularized, I became recognized as one of the OG digital nomads as well.
It's awesome. So you've been doing this almost 20 years now, right? Oh
Indeed.
six, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
amazing. So are you slowing down any? Like, how has like travel changed, like from where you started to like what you're doing now?
I am surprised as the next person to know that I'm still on the road. I'm still going. Like, when I started, I literally thought this could just be something I need to get out of my system in 6 months and just come back to Toronto. But what I've discovered along the way, and a lot of this is, of course, been enabled by technological advancements along the way, and the pandemic, for better or worse, did really make huge strides in terms of making remote work commonplace for many people around the world. And when that happened, more opportunities and ways to live and travel around the world opened up. So I have discovered along the way, I mean, my life and lifestyle has changed extraordinarily and many times over in terms of how I travel and live around the world. For my first 12 years, I was proverbially homeless. I didn't have an actual home base. I had no place in Canada. My permanent address, permanent residence, was my mom's address, really. But through many of those years, I did still spend a lot of time in certain places. Like, I had the base in Australia for 2 years. I was there 2 years on and off. I was in New Zealand for 9 months on and off. I was in the Caribbean island of Grenada for 2 years on and off. Peru, 2 years on and off, and then many other countries between 3 and 6 months. So I had that luxury of time to be able to really feel my way around the world and experience life and around the world in different ways and iterations. But after 12 years, I did hit a breaking point where, ironically, I'd kind of lost all sense of belonging in the world. and, which I thought was like, oh my God, like I've been traveling the world for 12 years to feel connected with everything. And now I feel disconnected from everything. Like it was not what I had anticipated. So I went back to Toronto to get a base, thinking that I was missing a cultural sense of belonging. Realized that I had missed the mark in that assumption. And that was, like Canada's my people. Well, no, Canada's not my people. I mean, Canada's not my people, but they're not the people that I was looking for. However,
Okay.
along the way, I did decide that I would keep my Toronto base because I do have family here.
Okay.
And the universe conspired to get me the friends and family deal on an amazing place that it was I rent it, but it's so inexpensive that I can afford to keep it and continue to travel. So it was just meant to be in that sense. So I have the space. But have continued to travel for the most of the year ever since. I mean, I was here for the pandemic, but that was it really. So most of the year I still am on the road. A couple of years ago, my lifestyle kind of took another turn in that I struck up a relationship with someone who lives in Bansko, Bulgaria. And so that gave me the ability to have another base. So my lifestyle now involves having two bases, one in Bansko, Bulgaria, one in Toronto, Canada. And I split my time between these bases, but then I also spend up to 5 months of the year still traveling as well.
That's amazing. Yeah. And Banksy is such a cool spot. I just got back from there like 6 weeks ago, and it was my first time there, and I absolutely loved it.
What did you like about it?
Are you tired of trading your time for a paycheck and a job that drains your soul? What if I told you in as little as 30 days you could be working fully remote, whether that be a beach in Thailand or a mountainside cafe in Peru? Hi, I'm Ryan. I've been a digital nomad for over 8 years, working for 23 US states and 24 countries. Through my one-on-one coaching, I've helped countless people create a life of freedom through remote work. I've spent the past 9 months creating the ultimate step-by-step masterclass to help you go from being stuck in your 9 to 5 to fully remote. This isn't just a dream. This has worked for so many others, and it can work for you too. Please click the button below, get instant access to the masterclass, and start living the life of your dreams today.
I just like the small town vibes. I liked how clean it was, how clean the air was, like it being in the mountains, and I also really just loved the community, the digital nomad community that's there. So it was so easy to just connect with so many other travelers, other digital nomads that kind of understand the day to day and what life's like. So like you're all in the same ship type deal. I think that was a big thing for me. It's also for like Europe, it's quite inexpensive. And I thought everywhere I ate, food was amazing, Not a super picky eater, but like I was also never disappointed with anything I ate there. And so, yeah, everything about it was pretty awesome. Like the biggest thing I didn't like was that, it's like 2+ hours from the airport by car. But that's like my only complaint, like that I can come up with, which is pretty weak.
It is it's mildly annoying. Definitely, it is an inconvenience. But you're right. It is for all the other pluses that Bansko offers. It can be worth the price.
Yeah, no, it's really such a cool spot. And so, like, when was the first time that you went to Bansko, and like, what was your first impressions?
I first went to Bansko 3 or 4 years ago now, and I went to speak at the Bansko Nomad Fest conference there. So this is it's a huge conference for anyone who's not already aware. It draws about 700 digital nomads from around the world. It's a week-long conference that is not just kind of conference-y stuff where there are people on stages giving, workshops and keynotes, but then there's also co-collaborative workshops in the afternoons held in the park. It just turns into, it transforms, and it's Woodstock for digital nomads, shall we say, for that week. So I showed up to speak at the conference, and I was immediately struck by a number of things. Over the years, I've developed maybe a tick list, a certain set of criteria that make a place livable for me. And that includes access to nature, like immediate access to nature, ideally without a car. And Bansko is right in the mountains. You do not need a car to be literally hiking in the mountains. But also, again, you don't need a car even for all the urban conveniences. So it's also well developed. There's good infrastructure. The air is clean. The water is clean and drinkable. You can get around without a car. You have easy access to nature. There's an interesting culture to explore, but there's also an international community presence, which you do get from the digital nomads throughout the year. So I was really intrigued by it. I really enjoyed the vibe. So I returned the next summer as well, again, because of the conference. But both summer visits, I was very aware that it was a ski town in the off season, which is part of why Bansko actually is what it is in terms of being a digital nomad hotspot, because a couple of people, Mateus and Uwe, showed up in like 2016, I think, and they showed up to Bansko and they saw opportunity. They said, wow, this is a place that is a ski town in the off season, and so it has infrastructure, but that infrastructure is not being used in the summertime. And they decided to open a co-working space there. And they, through the opening of that co-working space and then eventually the development of this conference, they now put Bansko, Bulgaria on the map solidly as a digital nomad destination. There are more co-working spaces per capita in Bansko than anywhere else in the world. So you can find your people, which actually is just a slight segue back to what I was saying when I got this place in Toronto and I realized that Canada wasn't my people. It took me a few years to figure out who my people were and what I was looking for in terms of that sense of belonging. But one of those aspects of the sense of belonging was to be able to have the ability to create a network of friends who understood my life and lifestyle. And I was able to do that in subsequent years through co-living and co-working spaces, and not all of the time, but enough of the time that I could develop those relationships with people that could then be forwarded and fostered throughout the years in other places around the world. So Bansko is one of these great places to do this. If you're looking at getting into this lifestyle, you show up to Bansko, you will meet a lot of people who could become your people.
Yeah, 100%. Like you're not going to be lonely in Bansko. The only way you do that is if like you just sit inside and, you work from home and you don't go out. But there's so many resources like the WhatsApp community, the co-working spaces, all the events that are happening every single night of the week, Monday through Friday. It doesn't matter. There's something going on. So it's so easy to just bump into people, meet people, even if you're just having a drink at happy hour at Pirin or something like that. Like, it's just such a diverse crowd. The locals are friendly. Everything's great.
Yep.
Really is. I really enjoyed my time there. So you mentioned a couple of times that you do like public speaking and like you were a public speaker at Bansko. So like give us an idea, like what are the type of topics that you usually talk about when you're doing these type of engagements?
Well, it does. I mean, obviously varies according to the event. However, my signature keynote that seems to be the speech or some variation of what I have been in the last few years asked to do around the world is generally about how to thrive as a digital nomad. And there are three elements to it. It is, how to frame travel as a lifestyle and to really work it to your benefit. How to work remotely, productively, which there's a lot of nuance in there. And then the real kicker is how to balance the travel lifestyle and remote work components.
Okay.
So that you can not feel like you're constantly being pulled in this game of tug of war between one and the other. Because although the travel lifestyle and remote work are obviously complementary, they're also opposing forces.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've paid the price for many times over. So in my keynote, I use lots of interesting anecdotes and funny stories to illustrate my journey of the last 20 years on the road in order to help people make their own journeys a little bit smoother along the way.
Okay. I like it. So with keeping that in mind, what would be some top tips that you would give to like someone who's thinking about jumping into this lifestyle, but they don't know where to start? What would you say to them?
So probably the biggest lesson that I learned over the years as a digital nomad is ironic.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this episode useful, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. You can hear all the full episodes of Digital Nomad Nation wherever you listen to podcasts. Drop your key takeaway in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, you're only one bold decision away from a life full of freedom.